All right, guys. I don't even know where to start this episode. Yesterday, I was just glued to Twitter, glued to any news network. It just felt like everything was coming out and our country is in shambles. It's kind of embarrassing, to be honest, that we have these people that represent us. It's kind of
It's
sad.
it's like political theater, but on steroids. It's like all of that came out, and then it was like, "You're fired." No, you're fired. Like it is
It
just.
just got worse, and I think it's still terrible. And we're going to get into the reasons why. But first off, let's start light. So,
Okay.
Sean Fraser, the housing minister, the former immigration minister, the housing accelerator fund that
Mhm.
we were all kind of saying, well, hopefully this builds more homes. Hopefully, he did all these photo shoots. He just said, I'm resigning.
Yeah. So he's not running for the
Yeah,
position. So he is still the housing minister currently.
he's resigning. Yeah, I don't know. No, I don't know when maybe it's effective immediately. I think he's
I
done.
really I think
Yeah,
that he's just not going to
rerun maybe.
rerun.
Whatever it is, he's leaving the Liberal Party.
Okay.
We don't know what his next plans are. I did hear that. And then this bombshell got thrown. Chrystia Freeland, the finance minister, like Trudeau's biggest ally,
Hmm.
like always had his back, was apparently fired on Friday. And she was supposed to give our fall economic statement, although ironically it's December,
Hmm.
in on Monday, but she was fired on Friday, but was still supposed to deliver the speech on Monday. I guess it's like not really a firing because she was supposed to go into another role,
Right.
which obviously this is what they kind of do. They kind of like shuffle people around to if they don't feel like they're capable in one job. Unsure who the finance minister was going to be. I know your dad said last night, Mark Carney.
Yeah, Mark
He's the
Carney.
former Bank of Canada. I think he was the head of the Bank of England at one point.
And now
Uh,
he's done there and he's back in Canada and he's a very smart man. It wouldn't be bad to have him in cabinet.
yeah, I think that it would. I'm not I was never a massive fan of Chrystia Freeland, although if you look at her parting letter, it said a lot of things like basically Trudeau had no confidence in what she was saying anymore. She was not being allowed to do her job. Usually, like if I was the prime minister and you were the finance minister, I trusted you in your abilities. I wouldn't oversight you. And she felt like he was oversighting her, and she disagreed with a lot of what he wanted to do. Here, I got some quotes here
Devil's
actually.
advocate, though, what a power move on her part because partly, yes, Justin Trudeau's the prime minister, so everything is technically his fault. However, look at the budget.
Oh, it's
And she's the
terrible.
finance minister. So, it, like her quitting and saying, I don't agree with anything, blah, 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 and putting it back on him absolves her of any of the backlash that she would have received if
Mm-hmm.
she was still the or if she didn't resign. So, what a power move on her part
Mm-hmm.
to, like sideswipe all the backlash and basically say, I don't agree with what you're doing. None of this was me kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I didn't even like that move. It's also cringy to me.
She said that for the past number of weeks, you and I have found ourselves at odds about the best path forward to Canada, being her and Trudeau. We need to take the threat extremely seriously. That means keeping our fiscal powder dry today so we have the reserves we may need for a coming tariff war. That means eschewing costly political gimmicks, which we can ill afford and which make Canadians doubt that we recognize the gravity of the moment, meaning the gimmick of removing the GST,
Right.
giving people $250 checks. So clearly she was saying, no,
Mm-hmm.
we can't do this because we've blown past our budget and we're in trouble if these tariffs come. So we need some dry powder per se, or some cash on hand to
Right.
potentially weather the storm.
Right. So in that budget, I heard that 1.2 billion was this $250 check, another somewhat billion of this HST GST holiday, which isn't really doing anything for your like 250.
No,
It's not
no, no.
doing enough. So I agree with her that that's
She
dumb
said, yeah.
because putting more, I guess, into the border, like there's already 1 point something billion in trying to tighten up our border security
Mm-hmm.
so that the tariffs don't happen. That's a big one. So I agree with her, maybe having more reserve. So if we do face Donald Trump's threat of 25% tariffs on all Canadian exports to the States, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But partly too, it is her fault. Like that, we're only talking about however many billion. We're 22 billion over.
Yeah.
Right? So
We're
partly
way
there's
over.
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. You just wonder like what happened to make her like, it's like if you and I fought and like we're close allies to one another, right? Like 9 years of their relationship, except they're running a country.
Mm-hmm.
And then she puts it out on Twitter about like how she doesn't agree with where he's going and what he's doing.
After the caucus meeting, apparently they hugged though.
Oh.
So it seemed to be kosher. As she departs, they hugged goodbye, and I think this was after.
This was after
that
I
she
didn't see
posted
that.
it, right? So she handed her resignation letter in, and he knew that they're parting ways. And then some reporter on whatever news channel I was watching did say that they hugged
and said
parting
goodbye.
Ways. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. But yeah, so let's get to the economic statement. So anyways, she says all this. We're waiting all day for the economic statement to come out. Who's presenting it? And what should have happened, and let me be clear, is that Trudeau should have came up and presented it himself.
100%.
He kept passing it. Who wants to be the next finance minister? Who wants to do this? Who wants to pick up the pieces of all this? And as a leader, that's what you expect. And if Pierre didn't do a masterclass of what a leader looks like these past couple days, like I don't know what is. Like he did so well. He keeps saying like, look, let Canadians decide. Like I don't care if you're liberal. I don't care if you're NDP. Like we just need to get a hold of what's going on in cabinet and in our political stance and in everything. With Trump coming, like we need to put it up to the Canadian people to decide.
I think one of the worst things that happened to Canada was Stephen Harper losing to Justin Trudeau, because as much as there was a lot of people that didn't like Stephen Harper because of he wouldn't do these little things like the GST holiday and stuff, and he wouldn't overspend. And as much as that things were tight for certain Canadians back then, and some people didn't like that, he kept the budget tight. Yeah. He was good at balancing the budget.
100%.
So that's where his strength lied. And then, he lost to Trudeau, who promised all of these things like these, what are they calling it? Political
gimmicks.
Yeah. That some people will vote differently for if they're struggling. Mm-hmm. But the government doesn't have money to do it, right? So he's over-promising something in the elections, promising these things to help Canadians, to help the lower class and middle class, that Stephen Harper said, no, we can't afford this. People won't like me for saying no to this, but we can't afford it as a country. And our budget was balanced always.
We had a surplus before he left, which technically it means that you should have spent a little bit more money, but we did have a surplus.
Well, you'd rather be in the surplus
than what we're in today.
And because the surplus allows for things like, hey, this threat of the tariffs, COVID, like things can happen where the surplus, where something needs more money allocated to because of what's happening, there's enough there to support anything that, rocks an economy, which inevitably happens.
Stephen Harper was like the fiscally responsible dad who wouldn't take you on vacation because he wanted some dry powder. Yes. Like that's basically what he was. And that was boring to a lot of people. But that being said, when you look back on history, I'm not saying he was perfect by any means. No prime minister is, but our budget was balanced. Inflation was under control. Our immigration system wasn't a mess. We had a better healthcare system than we have today. Overall, it's really hard to look back at 2015 and today and say that anyone is better off at all. It's very challenging to say, especially when housing prices have doubled and rent has doubled.
The only people that are better off are the people that bought Bitcoin in 2015.
Yeah, Bitcoin's been a good play. And it's funny because when Bitcoin had its downfall and it had a crash, like it kind of goes through these cycles. Trudeau kept going after Pierre because Pierre never said invest in Bitcoin. Like I want to make that very clear, but he was open to what Bitcoin was. And that's what, a smart person is. They're open to other opportunities. And, I think he paid for a PITA in Bitcoin, and I don't know if he holds any Bitcoin himself, and now they can't make fun of Pierre anymore because Bitcoin is just went on a tear. But I do want to talk quickly about the fall economic statement. So basically, it was supposed to be a deficit of 40 billion. We were talking about this yesterday. It actually ended up being 61.9 billion. So kind of our worst nightmare came true.
Mm-hmm. How long has it been kind of hovering around that 40 billion mark?
So the initial projection for this year was 40 billion. Mm-hmm. So Chrystia Freeland said, that's our guardrail. it's 40 billion. That's what's going to be this year.
I remember hearing something that it's like, oh my God, it might come back at 47. What a nightmare. And it
Yeah.
comes back at 62.
60. It's funny, like just a
Right.
side note, a lot of people were like, so am I not getting my $250 check this year
Yeah.
or next year? But anyways, so the extra 20 billion in Canada's budget deficit stem from several unexpected factors. Higher interest rates significantly increase debt servicing costs as borrowing became more expensive. Yes, when the government borrows money, you have to pay interest on the money that it borrows. It doesn't just get to borrow free money.
Right.
So that's something too. Slower than expected economic growth reduced government revenues from taxes, while pandemic-related spending programs continued longer than anticipated. One-time expenditures such as investment in climate change, housing affordability, and infrastructure added to the financial burden. Additionally, the government made provisions for potential trade impacts due to the U.S. tariff threat.
I hear that the Trudeau gave a lot of money. They're just giving out a lot of money to Indigenous.
I feel like they lost a court case. Now, I have to be honest, I didn't look very hard into the budget because there was so much going on. But yeah, there was a lot of like one-time payments that they had to fork out. I'm going to look into it more and hopefully be more prepared for next episode. This just happened yesterday, so trying to wrap my head around it and become a productive economy first.
So it also it pertains to the revenue too that Canada isn't generating because the economy has been so slow. So they've been lowering the interest rates to drive up, the economy, right? So the deficit is spending obviously minus revenue minus expenses. So there was just way more expenses. Maybe they projected more revenue. Maybe there's also a way overshot in what Canada's generating.
Yeah, so you're spending way too much, and you think that tax revenue is going to make up for how much you're spending, but it's not. So the most productive province we have is Alberta because of their natural resources, and you're saying you want to cap them because of that. All those resources and that revenue allows us to import stuff, allows us to pay for stuff. So the problem is that you have this, right? I think a lot of Canadians are centric. Is like you have fiscal money views, but you have more like left-leaning social views. You're more open. So I think, but we've killed the center, I think.
Yeah.
So now people are right or they're really left.
Yeah.
But I think more people are now right because of the fiscal issue that we're facing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So when you want to kill jobs, productivity, exports, growth, people get upset. And this is where we're at today. And you have a weakening loonie. So first time since 1998, our loonie has fell under 70 cents to the US dollar.
So bad.
So it's really bad. So people are bearish on Canada.
Yeah.
Where does this leave the real estate market? I don't know. You have an overvalued real estate market with a weak dollar and a weak economy, let's say a weak prime minister, and you put this all together, and this is why we're even talking about all this stuff, is where does it leave our housing market, which is very vulnerable to a huge drawdown? I don't know. I'm not smart enough to know, but it scares me when you look at all these metrics.
It does. It scares me too. The only saving grace is I think the GTA, despite the economy, is still going to be one of the major cities in the world, just with how much we're developed. Like we're a developed country, right? And no affordable city no city in any of these countries, major cities, are affordable. So I'm not scared of my house losing $1 million in value. I think it'll probably hold. Do I think it's going to be the smartest short-term investment like it was? No. I think we're just going to see a bunch of dry years.
But will it hold in a currency that continues to devalue? And would your money be better elsewhere is a big question that I think a lot of smart people are going to start asking themselves, even real estate investors.
Right.
And I hate to be this person of doom and gloom. I'm just looking at it practically, is that a lot of smart people are looking, the Canadian dollar was strong and real estate was strong. But is it the fact that the real estate is denominated in a weak currency here that could change people's perspective of that asset class, which I don't know.
That's a good question. Wow.
Keeps me up at night.
That's crazy.
Like, are we?
What happens if the loonie continues to devalue?
I don't know.
And then, yeah, let's say it's $700,000 house today, but then our loonie keeps going down.
And
Then
we're
what?
having some conversations, I don't want to say a lot, but of people saying, I'm just deleveraging. Remember we had the conversation the other day. I
Yeah.
want to just deleverage a bit, take a little bit off the table of borrowing money, because maybe a lot of people are thinking, even the way I'm thinking a little bit is like, even if my business slows down too, do I have enough just on the side to keep me afloat for a good period of time, right?
Yeah.
And it could just be me overthinking it and over doom and glooming
No,
it, but I'd rather be more prepared than not, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are planning more for the doom and gloom rather than COVID getting like uprooted. You know,
I think so too.
less, and you see it right in the spending in our markets. You see less investors just wanting to, put their savings into something that they think will grow. They want to just kind of hold on to it and see what happens. I don't think we're through the uncertainty that Canada's been feeling for however many years now. I think people are still confused, and even with the rise of AI and crypto, we're in such a confusing part that we're going to look back and, it'll make sense eventually. But right now it's like people don't know what to do.
Yeah. And the thing with crypto, and like, let me be clear, I've talked about Bitcoin before to you off air, and I'm an investor in it. Bitcoin was created during the 2008 financial crisis. It was a hedge against government spending too much money. It was a hedge against inflation. And it was meant to be the store of value for your money. Is it extraordinarily volatile? 100%. But it's in moments like this where you're glad that there's 21 million Bitcoin ever to be made. It's written in code. You're glad that they can't just go print more Bitcoins.
Yeah.
Right. And this is that hedge against, what we're seeing. We print all the money during COVID and asset prices got propped up. Now, what do I think could happen going forward? I think it's almost guaranteed that there will be an election before our election date next November.
So Jagmeet won't call it. And what? The Liberals are going to call it?
So Jagmeet,
he'll lose his minority if he calls it 100%.
Well, he will. This is the thing, is that he will gain more seats most likely if Trudeau's still in power and he's against Trudeau.
Yes.
His party will gain more seats. It'll still be a minority to the Conservatives. I think he'll call it when his pension's over. The amount of, which is in February, the amount of pressure he's receiving is gross.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine being in his shoes at all.
Yeah.
There's literally a GoFundMe right now for Jagmeet's pension.
Are you serious?
I just saw it on Twitter like an hour ago.
Oh my God.
I don't know how much money it's going to make. I don't even know what's legal.
That
I don't
is
know any of these
hilarious.
things.
Did you see his press release where he said that Justin needs to step down? It's like, dude, you can call an election. You know how the country is feeling, but he doesn't want to give up. There's a little bit of personal preferences he has going on with his own life of how to keep his pension, how to keep his minority government before he does the stand-up thing.
I think so too. And you know what? I honestly think Pierre should make a call to Jagmeet and figure out some way where, like, Jagmeet wants dental care really badly for low-income people. All this stuff is not free. It all costs money.
Yeah.
But to create a way where it's like, look, because Trudeau can do a lot on his way out. I don't think it can get any worse, but he could do a lot on his way out. So if you kind of create this idea where, look, we're not going to spend as much as you want to spend, Jagmeet, but this dental idea, here's a way that we could kind of meet on it or something like that.
Right, because Jagmeet doesn't want to call an election because the Conservatives will win by a landslide, and Jagmeet and Pierre have different policies and different views. So he doesn't necessarily agree with how Pierre wants to run things. I guess he's at an impasse because he's not agreeing with Justin Trudeau, telling him he has to step down, but he's not calling an election because he's also on the Liberal side of things and policies.
Exactly.
So he's
on the side, if not more, on the left leaning of, like, we need to give back, and
he's
and
very
greed and the anti-capitalism and stuff like that, which is the opposite of conservatives, because a conservative believes that capitalism is what creates jobs, which creates tax revenue, which what creates productivity and growth. And Jagmeet thinks that they price gouge people, and I think there's an argument for both sides. But ultimately, I'm a conservative, and I think that you can only spend money that you have.
Right.
That's my belief, and it's always been a big belief of mine. So, I don't know what's going to happen in that sense, but I think we'll have an election sooner than we think. And I did see that I think it was 60 or 40% of Liberal MPs
Want him to resign. Have asked
Trudeau to step down. So you have Conservatives wanting you to step down. Jagmeet Singh wants you to step down.
And,
Donald Trump, the whole country.
So he said when he was presented with this in the caucus meeting, he said, "Thank you. I will reflect on your opinions later." Something like that.
I don't think he'll ever step down. I think it has to be a non-confidence vote.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that his own Liberal Party will have to, in a sense, turn against him in the non-confidence vote. And that's the only way it'll happen. Or Jagmeet steps up and says, okay, no, enough's enough.
He would get so much praise if he just fucking he
would.
Language.
You can beat that out.
But he would. He
would, yeah.
I'm sure he'd get his pension and more if he just called it tomorrow. Everybody would be, thank you.
Yeah.
He should do it.
If it's really for a pension, I mean, wow, that's quite low, I think.
Yeah.
Because you know what everybody wants. Like,
Yeah. Are you for the people or for yourself?
There's one person, in a sense, holding us back from an election, which it kind of makes you feel like we're not a true democracy.
That's what my mom was saying. It's like if somebody's in power and, you can't remove him, yes, you've agreed to elect somebody for a certain amount of time to be the leader of a country. But when it's this bad and you can't remove him, it is scary in that
it is a little
sense
scary.
That it's like Canada wants this to happen. Like the country is speaking for itself.
It truly is, yeah. And even the media isn't even biased anymore. Like it is like they're all over Justin. Like they're all over Jagmeet. I would
hate to be that hated.
I don't like.
How does he sleep at night?
I don't understand. Like you have to have some sort of ego.
I don't think he's very smart.
Yeah. Like there's been moments in my life where I've said the wrong thing or done the wrong thing, and it's taken me 2 hours to be like, okay, I need to change. And say sorry and make amends. I was just in the moment. But like his moment has just lasted so long. Like it's just, if your whole team wanted you out and you still refuse, I don't know where his head's at. I honestly don't.
I just imagine too, like if I wasn't capable of leading even like the girls who like trust me to like help and lead them and stuff, and they came together and was like, you
got to go.
Yeah, as if I could be like, no, I'm still gonna lead you.
Yeah, but not you're leading a small real estate team. He's leading a country of 40 million people.
Yeah, but I just imagine being told that. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
I gotta go.
Yeah, it's wild. And then okay, so all that happened, and then there's been a few sneaky things that have happened, which we would have talked about. Inflation is at 1.9%, so it actually fell below the 2% target again.
Wow.
So our inflation seems to be under control. Hasn't really made much of a headline, but there's that. So we'll probably get another small drop in the overnight rate coming up. That being said, I don't know, with our currency devaluing so much, inflation could definitely reaccelerate, especially if the tariffs come in. And that's a huge thing we need to think about is like on January 20th, Donald Trump gets in and all he sees is a country that's weak and in shambles.
Yeah.
Which is like, we need someone who's like willing to like, okay, let's talk and negotiate. And we don't have that right now, which is it's actually quite a scary thing. And even the finance minister who's on her way out said the same thing in her resignation letter, is that we need to take this threat very seriously.
Yeah, that would crush Canadian. That would be detrimental to Canada's economy. 25% tariffs. I don't think people realize how bad that could be. Like it could be so bad. So that needs to be taken seriously.
You think it's bad now?
Oh, that will
recession.
That will cripple Canada. Okay? I'm stating that for the record that this cannot happen.
Our real estate market would get our
be
stock
so
market, jobs would get absolutely
25% tariffs. It'll stop. The margins wouldn't be there anyway. It would be so bad.
Yeah, they're in a better position than us. Like it is like stuff will get more expensive for the States, but like we need them a lot more than they need us. Unfortunately, it is what it is. They're a bigger economy, stronger economy. But they're our allies, so like just figure it out. You know?
And if we have new people in power. I think they will figure it out.
But will we have new people in by January 20th? And that's only if we trigger an election like tomorrow. Like okay, the election's going to be early January or something like that.
Well, his threat was as long as we clean up our borders, right? So there is a big amount of that budget.
Alberta, actually, Danielle Smith has been, I think, a godsend for like representing Canada. She's already sent more people on the borders, drones, and she put this whole Twitter post out.
Yeah, so
she went on Fox News, I think, or she went on some American news outlet and talking about, we want to strengthen our borders, and you guys are our allies, and we ship a lot of energy to you, and X, Y, and Z. And it's like, it's like your mother telling you to clean up your room, like just stop fighting it. Like just clean up your borders. Yeah, just do it. Just clean up your borders, and everything goes away.
Interesting. Yeah, so I think that's more about seeing that than it is the person that's negotiating with him. As long as what he wants to see get accomplished, he won't do it. I also don't think he will, because he's like all of his little jokes and mimics about Canada being the 51st state. Like I don't think he wants He's egotistical. I don't think he wants Canadians to hate him, right?
No.
He wants people's approval, so there's a little bit of that if you look at his personality and some of the things he says, right? He wants to be powerful. So these threats, it's like, oh my God, we got to listen to him. So he's technically taking, jurisdiction over Canada by telling us what to do, right? And he's the president of the United States, not us. But I don't think he'll do it for the sake that Canadians would hate him, and he doesn't want to be hated.
No,
he wants to be.
I don't think so.
He wants to be respected. He wants all the people to oogle him, and that's.
Yeah, he's a nationalist. Like he wants America number one, and he's made that very clear. So yeah, like we need to work with the states and get a deal done where it makes sense for. Obviously, you don't want to get pushed around. That's number one, but. They're still our biggest exporter. Like we need them, and our GDP would absolutely plummet. Oh my God. Last thing that the CRA is implementing, which you and I have been a big fan of this for a long time. It looks like it's coming in 2025. Income verification.
Good.
So no more of that stuff that you see behind the scenes of people faking their income and paying someone to do Photoshop. The CRA will now validate your income with the lender that you want to go with.
I don't know why they didn't do that already.
Craziness. Ron Butler was a huge
documents that the brokers just got a hold of. And if you're good at Photoshop, I can't tell the difference.
No.
So a big national lender would give you a mortgage based on
fraud.
Yeah, without any verification. Like you call whatever number stated, they'd call and say, "Does Brooke actually work there?" Like how
does she make 91,000?
Yeah, doesn't it seem so archaic thinking about it? It's like, how is this not a thing? Even with how technologically smart computers are, like that they're still relying on. That looks good. All right, here's $1 million loan.
Seems like it was by design to prop up the market. I'll be honest. Yeah,
I don't disagree.
I will be honest with you. And what was the point of the stress test? If you had fake income, I don't know. But anyways. Let's look at the positives here. I'm glad it's coming, and I think that will, be good for the market. Enough fraud, enough fake money going around, and it is what it is. You make this is what you can afford, and if it brings down the market, so be it. Then it'll expose a lot of fraud in the market. So
yeah. They've done that already.
This was an action-packed episode.
Oh my God, I was listening to the news and I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited to call Cortez.
Yeah, I had my walking treadmill out yesterday just to get my steps in because I didn't want to leave. I had to charge my phone like halfway through the day because I was on Twitter so much. Funny. Yeah, I was just because there was a lot of talks that Trudeau was going to resign like on the spot.
Yeah.
Did not happen, but it might still happen. So we'll obviously keep you posted. Follow us on our Instagram for like the most up to date stuff that I can find on Twitter that I reshare. But
yeah, some of those posts that you just made had like 900 shares.
Yeah, I got a lot of shares. Yeah. The budget one got a lot of shares. I think that one surprised a lot of people.
Well, if you don't look at your money, that's a problem. Like you should have known for a long time the budget was going to come in at that, unless you don't look at your spending and your income like me. Yeah. You don't look at it. But that you can't do that if you're running a country. You can do it if you're a single 30-year-old that doesn't want to look at her money.
Yeah, there you go.
That's it.
But anyways, yeah, no, I think that it's not like this is supposed to be doom and gloom. It's just like us young people are going to inherit this mess.
Yeah.
Like we have to pay off this
Right. Well, the
debt.
budget, $62 billion, it's not just going to go away.
No.
We have to service that. Taxes are going to go up. Like that will need to be serviced. And whoever comes into power too, it's like things are going to get cut, man. Like we need a balance, bring that down, or there's way worse things in our future if that doesn't happen. So
you can't keep spending your way out of a problem.
No.
Like unfortunately, you have to make cuts on certain things to get that down. So, or you produce more as a country and you find other revenue streams that'll make up for the deficit that we can pay it down.
Yeah, there's the thing. That's my motto is don't try to curb your spending habit, afford your spending habit.
There you go.
So make more money if you're going to spend that much.
Oh, geez, Brooke. Oh, you're a piece of work. Anyways, I think that's everything for this week. There's obviously been a ton going on and we'll see where it all brings us. I hope that Canadians can vote and we can honestly go to a true democracy and we can vote and we can get out there and, you know, we can do our little
laughing stock of the world.
It feels like it does. It always felt so good to be Canadian and I'm still very proud to be Canadian. But right now it feels like we have to all kind of come together and weather the storm because we're not looking good on a global stage. And
no, we're not.
And there's a lot of angry people out there and rightfully so.
Yeah,
I think that
it's very true.
A lot of people feel taken advantage of, that's for sure. And not a lot of hope for young people.
No, it's sad.
I was talking to my buddy's kids. They're just like, there's no opportunity out there. Like, we're never going to own a home. Like, it's just this, this kind of, I know it, you don't want this doom and gloom attitude, but it could feel that way for sure.
I get it.
Yeah. Even like as a woman with say your biological clock's coming to an end or you're getting close to that and you're like, well, I can't afford a house. I can't afford myself. How am I supposed to have kids? That really is like that. There's a lot of things that can pull your heartstrings, which, not to blame it on government fully, but geez, look where we're at. Yeah. Anyways, sorry to leave on such a sad note. Let's be hopeful for the future and, the good change that could come and hopefully more Canadians coming together and not creating this left and right mentality divide. Yeah. 100%.
Agree.
Anyways. All right, guys. Thanks for supporting our show. If you like it, please like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us get bigger guests or just helps us to keep doing this thing. We also have a sponsor in the new year that we'll be talking about called Chexy. They are going to help you guys gain credit card points on your rental payments. So we obviously get told that this channel is very much like for the common folk and just, people who just like to understand things better. So yeah, we probably have a lot of renters listening to this channel. And yeah, if you sign up with Chexy, which we'll talk about later on, you can get credit card points. It also helps with your credit score as well. So it's kind of like a wallet and your landlord doesn't even need to know about it. That's just you to gain credit card points for groceries or maybe a flight somewhere. It's a pretty cool app, which we'll talk more in depth about. If you're looking to make a move and you feel like you want to have a conversation with Brooke and myself, you are in, Toronto, Hamilton, Burlington, Oakville, some of the surrounding areas as well. Book a call in the first link down below in the description with us. It's absolutely free. And yeah, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Take care and we'll see you next week.